Crete. The year 2015. Archaeologists uncover an ancient burial site in an olive grove outside the Acropolis of Pylos. The ashes have remained untouched for 3,500 years. Next to the remains are golden bowls, bronze daggers with golden handles, and an agate stone depicting a victorious warrior. At the feet of the deceased lies an intricately carved ivory plate with a griffin. This is not just a grave. It is the tomb of a ruler, one of the founders of the Mycenaean civilization. He will be called the warrior with the griffin. But who was he? Where did he come from? Whose blood flows in his veins? The University of Cincinnati extracts ancient DNA. The result shocks the scientific community. Haplogroup G2a, the oldest lineage of the Aegean Sea, linked to the first agriculturalists of Anatolia. The warrior was not an invader from the north. He was not a conqueror from the steppes. He was Greek, indigenous, local. A study from 2017, published in Nature, confirms 75% of the Mycenaean genome traces back to Neolithic Anatolian populations. Modern Greeks still maintain this genetic link. What if everything you knew about the origins of the Greeks was wrong? What if the roots of this civilization extend not to Hellas, but to the Caucasus and Iran? Ethnonym, the name of a people, the key to the puzzle. The ancient Greeks called themselves Hellenes. The Byzantines called themselves Romaioi, Romans. The word Greek came from the Latin Graeci, the name Romans used for tribes in Western Balkans. But who were those who lived here before all those names? Before writing? Before gods? 7,000 years BC. The Balkan Peninsula. Smoke over the first settlements. Charred grains of wheat in hearths. Shards of pottery with fingerprints. Neolithic farmers plowed the earth. Erected stone houses. Established themselves. Their DNA became the foundation of the Greek people. Haplogroup E1b1b V13. A study by Yankova, published in 2024 in the Annals of Human Biology, records its presence in 21 to 35% of modern Greek men. This lineage emerged in the Balkans around 8,000 years ago. Older than Troy, older than Mycenae, older than any written source. Carriers of E1b1b V13 spread throughout the Mediterranean. But the highest concentration remains here, in the Balkans, in Greece. Can you accept that Greek civilization was born not from conquests, but from an unbroken line of one people? Ancient Greek myth. Deucalion and Pyrrha, the only survivors of the flood. Zeus destroyed humanity. Only they remained. Stones thrown over the shoulder turned into people. Thus the Hellenes were born, a beautiful legend. But what do the bones say? 2017. A study published in Nature. 102 ancient genomes from the Aegean region. Dust from the graves. Fragments of skulls. Teeth that preserved DNA for millennia. Haplogroup G2a. A lineage that came from the east 7,000 years before Christ. Not from Olympus, from the Anatolian Plateau. A study by Scortaniotti, published in 2023 in Nature Ecology and Evolution, finds G2a occurs in 6 to 11% of modern Greeks. In the Neolithic, 40%. These are not gods. These are settlers. They came through the mountains, carried bags of grain, herded goats and sheep, fired clay, built the first sanctuaries, not to Zeus, but to the mother goddess. Their settlements are found throughout Greece, Thessaly, Boeotia, Peloponnese. What if everything you were taught about the divine origin of the Greeks is just a fairy tale concealing the truth of migration? 5,400 years BC. Continental Greece. The remains are buried in the earth. Bones that have lain for 9,000 years. Tooth enamel holds a secret. Scientists extracted ancient DNA. The result was published in Scientific Reports in 2022. 42 ancient individuals, Neolithic burials. Mitochondrial haplogroup, K. A maternal lineage passed only from mother to children, unchanged for millennia. A study by Silva finds K comprises 6% of the modern Greek maternal gene pool. In the Neolithic, 15%. These women carried the genetic code through generations, gave birth, raised children, passed on memory. But there were others, more ancient. Theopetra Cave, Central Greece, layers of ash, flint tools, bones of wild animals, mitochondrial haplogroup U5, a lineage of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers. Age, 12,000 years. U5 occurs in 2 to 3% of modern Greek women. It is the trace of the first Europeans, those who lived here before the farmers came, before the fired clay, before the flocks of sheep. The research shows U5 did not disappear. It dissolved into the new population. Mixed. Survived. Can you guess who is more important in the veins of the Greeks? The first hunters or the incoming farmers? 2,900 to 1,700 years BC. Crete. The Minoan civilization. Palaces with columns. Frescoes of young men jumping over the horns of a raging bull. Linear A script, not deciphered to this day. Who are they? Where did they come from to the island? 2017. A study by Lazaridis, published in Nature. 10 Minoan genomes from burials. Bones from Moni Odogatrius. Remains from Minoan Lasithi. Scientists extracted DNA. The results shocked the scientific world. Haplogroup J2b, a rare paternal lineage associated with ancient Caucasian populations. Its frequency among the Minoans reached 10%. Among modern Greeks, 3 to 5%. J2b came from the east, from Transcaucasia, from the area of modern Armenia, Azerbaijan, perhaps from Iran. This is not an Aegean lineage. This is Eastern blood in the veins of those who built the labyrinths and painted the walls in ochre. The Minoans did not speak the Greek language. They worshipped a goddess with snakes, but their DNA flows in the veins of modern Greeks. They left ruins of palaces, pottery with octopuses, golden rings, frescoes of women in multi-layered skirts, and jeans. What if the Minoans are the key to understanding why there is an Eastern trace in Greek blood? 1,700 to 1,200 years BC. Mainland Greece. Mycenae. Fortresses with cyclopean walls. Shaft graves filled with gold. Warriors in boar helmets. They do not resemble the Minoans. The Minoans built palaces without fortifications. The Mycenaeans erected citadels. The Minoans painted flowers and dolphins. The Mycenaeans, battles and hunting. Where does this difference come from? Haplogroup R1b, a steppe lineage from the Pontic-Caspian expanses. Horsemen, herdsmen, warriors. A study by Lazaridis finds R1b occurs in 13 to 22% of modern Greeks. Among Mycenaeans of the Bronze Age, 5 to 10%. This is new blood. Northern, foreign to the Aegean world. R1b arrived around 2,000 years BC. With it came horses, chariots, burial mounds over the graves of chieftains, bronze swords with golden handles, and most importantly, an Indo-European language. A study from 2021, published in Cell, shows the emergence of the Greek language coincides with the arrival of the steppe component. The Mycenaeans already spoke Greek. Their tablets have been read. The steppe dwellers changed everything. Minoan culture declined. Mycenaean culture flourished. What if Greek civilization was born not from peaceful farmers, but from steppe conquerors? 1,200 years BC. Catastrophe. The Mycenaean palaces are burning. Pylos is destroyed. Mycenae is abandoned. Tiryns lies in ruins. This is called the collapse of the Bronze Age. Civilization fell in a single generation. Archaeologists find layers of ash, charred beams, broken pottery, skeletons, improperly buried. What happened? An earthquake? An invasion? A drought? No one knows for sure. But the people survived. The DNA remained. Haplogroup R1A, another steppe lineage associated with the corded ware culture. Horsemen from the Pontic steppes. R1A occurs in 8 to 11% of modern Greeks, but among the Mycenaeans it was almost absent. It came later. After the collapse, after the Dark Ages. A study by Lazaridis in 2023, published in Science, shows R1A penetrated Greece between the 12th and 8th centuries BC. This is a period of chaos, a period of migrations. The Dorian invasion, the Sea People's migration. Writing disappeared, cities were deserted, trade came to a standstill. But the genetic core of the Greeks endured. Anatolian foundation, Balkan substrate, steppe additions. The catastrophe did not erase the Greeks, did not replace them with another people. What if the greatest crisis of the Bronze Age did not destroy the Greeks but tempered them? 800 to 600 years BC. Archaic Greece, the birth of the city-states. Athens, Sparta, Corinth, Thebes. The Greeks emerge from the Dark Ages, reviving writing based on the Phoenician alphabet, raising temples of white marble, minting silver coins with an owl and a turtle. And they settle. Throughout the Mediterranean, triremes set sail into the sea. Colonists land on foreign shores, from Massilia in the west to Olbia in the north, from Cyrene in Africa to Trebizond by the Caucasus. Hundreds of Greek cities, thousands of settlers. Haplogroup I2a, a Balkan lineage occurring in 6 to 9% of modern Greeks. A study by Finocchio, published in 2018 in Scientific Reports, shows I2a is related to the Illyrians, Thracians, and neighboring tribes of the Balkans. Greeks encountered them in borderlands, traded amber and slaves, fought for pastures, took wives from neighboring tribes. I2a penetrated the Greek gene pool, but did not alter its foundation. A study by Tofanelli in 2015 recorded Greek genetic markers in southern Italy. Magna Graecia preserved the DNA of the colonists. The analysis shows 80% of modern Greeks are genetically related to the ancients. What if the Greeks survived not in spite of, but thanks to their ability to absorb the foreign while retaining their own? 5th to 4th centuries BC. Classical Greece. The Athenian Agora. Philosophers debate, citizens vote, merchants shout prices. But who is a citizen? Who has the right to a vote? Only those whose parents are citizens. Both father and mother. Greeks remembered their ancestors. They knew their lineage back to the 7th generation, maintained genealogies as sacred records. This was not merely tradition. It was a mechanism of preservation. Mitochondrial haplogroup, H, 45% of modern Greek women, a trace that goes back to the Neolithic. But H is not alone. Alongside it are T, J, K, U, a whole mosaic of female lines formed over millennia. Genetic analysis shows the maternal gene pool of the Greeks has been stable for 7,000 years. No invasions have fundamentally changed it. The Persians came and went. The Macedonians conquered half the world. The Romans absorbed Greece. But the female lines remained. Citizenship laws protected the gene pool better than any fortress wall. Mixed marriages existed. But children from them did not receive citizenship, did not belong to the clan, remained outside. A strict system, but effective. Imagine if you were told Greek democracy was a tool of genetic isolation. The 5th century BC, the Persian Wars, Marathon, 490 BC, 10,000 Greeks against 100,000 Persians. Thermopylae, 480 BC, 300 Spartans hold the pass for 3 days. Salamis, Greek triremes sink the Persian fleet in a narrow strait. What drove these people? Freedom, homeland, the memory of ancestors? A study by Clemente, published in 2021 in Cell, analyzes genomes from the Late Bronze Age and Iron Age. The result shocks. The Greeks of the classical era carry the same genetic markers as the warriors of Mycenae 1,000 years before them. A continuous line, from bronze swords to iron hoplites. Mitochondrial haplogroup J, a Near Eastern lineage occurring in 8 to 10% of Greek women. J came from Anatolia in the Neolithic. It intensified through maritime contacts. Phoenician traders, Egyptian merchants, Persian embassies, the Aegean Sea, a crossroads of civilizations. Ports are bustling. Ships arrive from the east, west, and south. But the genetic influx remains limited. J accounts for 10%, no more. Greece absorbed ideas, adopted technologies, borrowed the alphabet from the Phoenicians, learned medicine from the Egyptians. But the blood remained its own. What if the Greek miracle happened not due to isolation, but due to the ability to take the foreign without losing the self? 4th to 3rd centuries BC, the Hellenistic era. Alexander the Great dies in 323 in Babylon. He is 32 years old. The empire falls apart. The Diadochi divide the world, wars, betrayals, assassinations. But in Greece itself, relative silence. Mitochondrial haplogroup T, a lineage associated with ancient farmers of the Fertile Crescent. T occurs in 8 to 10% of Greek women, a trace of Neolithic migrations from Mesopotamia and Anatolia. Greece in the 3rd century, a periphery. The center has shifted. Alexandria overshadows Athens. Antioch is wealthier than Corinth. Greek intellectuals leave, philosophers, scholars, poets. They seek patrons in new capitals. Demographic outflow, brain drain, depopulation. But the genetic core remains. Those who left, the elite, educated, men, farmers stayed, women stayed, the land remained. It is they who preserve the Greek gene pool, not the philosophers in the Library of Alexandria, not the generals in Asia. Common people, farmers, fisherwomen. History remembered the names of kings, but DNA preserved the people. What if the greatness of a nation is measured not by conquests, but by the ability of common folks to survive in the shadow of foreign glory? 2020. Crete, an isolated mountain village. Scientists conduct genetic research of the local population. Routine work. The result is sensational. Mutation, APOC3 R19X, a rare genetic variant that alters fat metabolism. This mutation lowers triglyceride levels in the blood, protects against cardiovascular diseases, even with a high-fat diet. Before this, it was found only in one population in the world, among the Amish, an isolated community in the USA. Now, among Cretans. What does this mean? Isolation, genetic drift, thousands of years without mixing. Haplogroup G2a. In the mountainous regions of western Crete, its frequency reaches 90% among men. This is the highest G2a rate in the world. A study by Scortaniotti, published in 2023 in Nature Ecology and Evolution, analyzes 102 ancient genomes from the Aegean region. Conclusion: Cretan mountaineers are direct descendants of Minoans, undiluted, unmixed, the islands protected, the mountains isolated, the sea cut off from the mainland. While on the mainland conquerors changed, Cretan villages remained untouched. Romans came and went. Byzantines ruled. Arabs captured the coast. Venetians built fortresses. Ottomans ruled for centuries. But the mountains remained Greek. Minoan. What if Crete preserves a living genetic time capsule? A direct line from the Minoans to today. 146 BC. Roman legions enter Corinth. The city is destroyed. Men are killed. Women and children sold into slavery. Greece becomes the Roman province of Achaia. 600 years of Roman rule. from republic to empire, from Caesar to Constantine. What happens to the Greek gene pool? The Romans admired Greek culture, learned from Greek philosophers, copied Greek statues, hired Greek teachers for their children. But did they mix genetically? A study by Lazaridis in 2023, published in Science, analyzes genomes from the Roman period in Greece. 726 ancient samples from the Balkans. The finding is shocking. The Roman genetic influence on the Greeks is less than 2%. 600 years of rule. Legions, officials, merchants, veterans who were given land in the provinces. But the genetic trace is almost zero. The Romans ruled, but did not populate massively. Greece remained a periphery. Poor, sparsely populated, unattractive to colonists. Italians preferred wealthy provinces. Gaul, Spain, Africa, not ravaged Greece. Cultural exchange flowed the other way. It was not the Romans who changed the Greeks. The Greeks Hellenized the Romans. Latin poets imitated Homer. Roman emperors spoke Greek. Hadrian rebuilt Athens. Can you guess why 6 centuries of Roman rule left less genetic trace than 1 century of Persian wars? 3rd to 7th centuries AD. Late Antiquity. The Roman Empire is falling apart. Rome falls in the west. Byzantium is born in the east. Greece becomes part of a Christian empire that speaks Greek. Constantinople, the new capital, the new Rome, but Greek in spirit. The Byzantines call themselves Romioi, Romans, but their language is Greek. Their culture is Greek. The Church, Orthodox, 6th to 7th centuries. Slavic tribes invade the Balkans, wave after wave, from the north, across the Danube. They settle in Greece, Thessaly, Macedonia, Peloponnese. Byzantine chronicles write, the whole country has been Slavicized. But what does DNA say? Haplogroup R19X, a West Slavic lineage, a marker of Slavic migrations of the 6th to 7th centuries. A study by Lazaridis in 2023 finds R19X occurs in 4 to 6% of Greeks in Macedonia and Thrace. On the islands, almost absent. The Slavs settled on the mainland, but the islands remained untouched. Crete, Euboea, the Cyclades, Rhodes, the sea, an insurmountable barrier for land-based nomads. Byzantium recaptured lands, resettled Greeks from Asia Minor, restored balance. By the 9th century, the Slavs in Greece had forgotten their language, accepted orthodoxy, Hellenized. Assimilation absorbed the conquerors. What if Byzantium saved the Greek identity not with the sword, but with the cross and the Greek language? 1453. May 29th. Constantinople falls. Ottoman troops burst into the city. The last Byzantine emperor, Constantine XIII, dies on the walls. The end of a millennium-old empire. Greece under Ottoman rule. 400 years. From the 15th to the 19th century. Islamization. Jizya, tax on Christians. Devshirme, seizure of boys for janissaries. Destruction of churches. Conversion to Islam. Many Greeks flee. To the Ionian Islands under Venetian control. To Crimea. To Italy. To Russia. Demographic catastrophe. Greece loses 1/3 of its population. But those who remained preserved their faith, their language, their memory. Haplogroup Q, a Central Asian Turkic lineage of the Ottomans. In Greeks, less than 1%. The Orthodox Church became a shield. Interreligious marriages are forbidden by Sharia and canon law. A Muslim woman cannot marry a Christian. A Christian woman who marries a Turk automatically becomes a Muslim. Children from such marriages are Muslims. By law, by tradition. They left the Greek community, forgot the language, ceased to be Greeks. The millet system divided Ottoman society by faith. Orthodox, a separate millet. With their courts, their schools, their endogamy. Faith turned into a genetic barrier. What if the Ottoman yoke did not destroy the Greeks but froze their genetic identity for 4 centuries? The 19th century, the Greek War of Independence, 1821. A revolt against the Ottomans, massacres, counter-massacres, Chios, Tripolitsa, Missolonghi. Europe intervenes. The Battle of Navarino, 1827. The Ottoman fleet is destroyed. 1830. Greece gains independence. But the country is devastated, scorched, depopulated. 1922. The Greco-Turkish War ends in disaster. The Asia Minor catastrophe. Smyrna burns. Turks massacre the Greek population of Anatolia. Population exchange. 1.5 million Greeks from Turkey are deported to Greece. 500,000 Turks and Muslims. From Greece to Turkey. The largest forced relocation in history. Pontians, Ionians, Cappadocians. They arrive in Greece, refugees on the land of their ancestors. Their DNA is Greek, but with admixtures. Haplogroup L, a South Asian lineage found in 1 to 2% of Pontic Greeks. A trace of Persian, Armenian, Kurdish neighbors. But the foundation is the same. Aegean, Anatolian, the one that came from Asia Minor to Greece thousands of years ago. A study by Lazaridis shows refugees of 1922 are genetically closer to ancient Greeks than some inhabitants of mainland Greece. The irony of history. The Greeks of Anatolia preserved the ancient gene pool better than the Greeks of the Balkans. What if the exile from Anatolia returned Greece to its ancient blood? 1940 to 1949. The Second World War. The Civil War. Germany occupies Greece. Famine. Hundreds of thousands die. Partisans in the mountains. Communists against royalists. Brother kills brother. 1949. The Civil War ends. Greece loses 10% of its population. A new wave of emigration. Thousands leave for America, Australia, Germany, demographic crisis. But the gene pool survives. The 2010s. Greece after the economic crisis. Youth leave for abroad. Birth rates decline. But genetic studies show, despite the trials of the 20th century, the Greek gene pool remained stable. A study by Panutsopoulou, published in 2014 in Nature Communications, analyzes isolated populations of northern Greece and Crete. Result? Genetic drift. Founder effect. Local variations. But the basic genetic structure, unchanged since the Bronze Age. Wars, occupations, deportations, famine, emigration. Nothing broke the genetic continuity. Mitochondrial haplogroup X2. A rare lineage occurring in 1 to 2% of Greek women. X2 is associated with the earliest European populations. Paleolithic, 20,000 years ago. This lineage survived the Ice Age, the Neolithic Revolution, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, Antiquity, the Middle Ages, Ottoman rule, World Wars, and it has reached our days. What if the Greeks are living proof that DNA can be stronger than any catastrophe? From 2017 to 2024, the era of mass DNA sequencing, a revolution in genetics. Scientists analyze not just ancient bones, but living people. The Hellenic Project, the Hellenic Isolated Cohort, a large-scale study of the Greek gene pool. Hundreds of villages, thousands of samples. Northern Greece, Crete, the islands. What did they discover? Regional differences, strong ones. Northern Greeks from Macedonia carry more Balkan and Slavic markers. Cretans, more Minoan. Islanders of the Aegean Sea, more ancient Aegean. But all cluster as one population. Southern European, Mediterranean. A study led by Tayfun Asilik from Bilkent University in 2021 analyzes genomes of nearly 4,000 residents of Turkey. The result is shocking. The genetic structure of Turks and Greeks differs radically. Turks carry 15% Central Asian component. Greeks, practically zero. Turks are genetically closer to Caucasians and Near Eastern populations. Greeks, to Southern Italians and Balkans. The genetic boundary runs along the Aegean Sea. Clear, insurmountable. 400 years of Ottoman rule, proximity, trade, wars. But there was no genetic convergence. Two peoples living side by side for centuries remained genetically distinct. Can you accept that culture and faith divide peoples more than mountains and seas? 2023. A genetic discovery. Scientists study the connection between Greek DNA and ancient civilizations of the Near East. Hittites, Sumerians, Urartians, these peoples disappeared thousands of years ago. Their languages forgotten, their cities buried under sand, but their genes live on. Research shows haplogroups G2a and J2, dominant among Greeks, trace their roots back to these civilizations. G2a emerged in the region of the Anatolian Plateau, where the Hittite Empire thrived, 6,000 years ago. J2 is linked to the Sumerians of Mesopotamia, to Urartians of Transcaucasia, to the builders of the first cities of humanity. The center of the ethnogenesis of the Greeks, research shows, was to the north of the Interfluve and Asia Minor, where Hittite culture developed, where the roots of Sumerian tradition lie in the mountains of Transcaucasia. Greeks are not just Europeans. They are heirs of the oldest civilizations on the planet. A comparison with contemporary peoples is shocking. Georgians carry the same G2a and J2. Armenians, as well. Kurds, partly. Jews and Arabs, J2 at high frequencies. But only the Greeks have fully preserved the culture of Urartu and Hal. Architectural traditions, mythological motifs, religious rituals, the cult of the bull among the Minoans. A direct line from Çatalhöyük, a Neolithic settlement in Anatolia with a pronounced bull cult. The mother goddess of Greeks, an echo of Sumerian Inanna. Hittite Hepet. DNA confirms what archaeology has long suspected. What if the Greeks are the last bridge between the vanished civilizations of antiquity and the modern world? 2024. Crete. Archaeologists find a new tomb, the Bronze Age, 3,500 years underground. They extract DNA, analyze it in a Harvard laboratory. The result comes months later. Haplogroup J2a, the same as the warrior with the griffin, the same as the Minoans from Knossos, the same as the Mycenaean kings. 3,500 years have passed. Empires were born and fell. Persians invaded, Romans conquered, Slavs settled, Ottomans ruled for 4 centuries. But the blood remained the same. The memory was not preserved in stone, not in books, not in the marble of the Parthenon. In DNA. Modern Greeks carry within them a genetic code that has been passed down from father to son, from mother to daughter, without interruption for 3,000 years. This is not a legend, not a myth of Deucalion, not a fairy tale about the gods of Olympus. This is science, precise, ruthless, objective. Greeks are the heirs of Mycenae, descendants of the Minoans, carriers of genes that arrived from Anatolia 7,000 years ago. Wars did not destroy them. Conquests did not dissolve them. Time did not break them. The Greek people survived, preserved itself, carried its identity through millennia of trials, family, kin, faith, language, memory of ancestors. This is the true strength of a nation, not armies, not fortresses, not gold. Greeks proved. A people who remember their ancestors cannot be destroyed. And this is something to be proud of.